Good morning. My name is Kathy Young, and I serve as the Executive Director of the New York State Center of Excellence for Food and Agriculture at Cornell Agritech. It is my honor and my privilege to introduce to you today one of our very special Grow New York guests, and that's Aishwarya Iyer. Raised in an immigrant family in Texas, Aishwarya has been breaking barriers and leading through innovation since college, where she developed her own major through New York University's Gallatin School of Individualized Study. An accomplished communications professional, Aishwarya climbed the ranks of world-renowned companies, including Lancome, Second Market, and FF Venture Capital, before founding Brightland. Brightland's beautifully packaged olive oils were born from Aishwarya's desire to reap the natural health and wellness benefits of olive oil by offering an alternative to the rancid, adulterated oils that can be found on grocery shelves. Through her commitment to quality, Aishwarya and her team have created a carefully sourced, sustainable product that is taking the olive oil world and market by storm. So welcome, Aishwarya.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you so much for having me today.
As I said, we're thrilled to have you. I know that you're in California right now, and
Yes.
that you did spend a lot of time in New York, however. And so you're an entrepreneur, and we have a lot of entrepreneurs and startup companies that are tuning in today. So I thought we would start, you have a beautiful brand, and if you could please tell us a little bit about your product and how you were able, what inspired you for the brand and for your design.
Yes, absolutely. So, I think that you summed up the sort of the genesis for why I started the company. Ultimately, I really wanted to shine a spotlight on small farmers here in California that practice sustainable agriculture and are doing things in a really beautiful way in the olive oil world and now in the vinegar world. And ultimately pair that with design and pair that with art and pair it with something that you feel really excited to kind of showcase in your kitchen countertop. And I think, when you think about the olive oil category and that sort of pantry essentials category at large, when you go to the grocery store or even a farmer's market, everything kind of has a homogeneous sameness. And what I was really excited to do was just create something that had a little more jazz and pep to it and truly was bright, which is, hence Brightland. And so if we pull up our first slide, you can see our bottles, and I think that'll give you a good kind of visual. But essentially, I really wanted to champion color, champion just the beauty of the greenness of olive oil without screaming green on the packaging. And so if you look at our olive oil bottles, they are white. And the reason why they're white is because, one, they have UV protection kind of coating, organic coating all over them. And basically what that does is it preserves the integrity of the oil, because one of olive oil's biggest enemies is light. So that's, kind of part A. And then part B, ultimately, we really wanted to celebrate the beautiful color of produce in California. So the colors that you see reflected on the bottles are, tomato and squash blossoms and passion fruit, purple cauliflower. And so that's sort of how we thought about it. And then also we were really inspired by art. So really inspired by Matisse, by Hilma. And whenever I talk to entrepreneurs, I always say, look beyond your industry for inspiration when you're thinking about design, when you're thinking about packaging, when you're thinking about product photography. Like if you go to the second slide, you'll see a little bit of, a photo of our chili olive oil that we debuted last year. And if you look at this photo, it looks almost like a beauty photo. It looks like it could be blush and like potentially it's in a dish that could be something that's kind of analogous to beauty. And we looked at beauty quite a bit because I believed that beauty did a great job of talking about health benefits and kind of the product features. And even, their photography was really, really distinct. And so that was an industry that we were deeply inspired by. So I always tell entrepreneurs, like, look outside of your industry, whether it's art, design, photography, film, look at beauty, look at, especially if you're in food, look outside of food. And that way you can build something that's distinct and you're not operating in a sea of sameness.
Yeah, so we were chatting earlier and you were telling me about going to a grocery store or supermarket and looking at the olive oil section and saying, wow, everything looks the same. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, if you go to if you go to like a large scale grocery store, if you go to a farmer's market, if you go to a specialty grocery store, if you spend a little bit of time in the oil section, you'll see that the majority of the bottles are that like dark green, amber color, maybe plastic. They have a lot of like photos of the olives on them, like very literal in sort of like what they are and what it does. You never see them really talk about pairings, food pairings. You never see that emotional component of how does it make you feel. And I think that would be my other very kind of key takeaway from all of this is that we always lead and led, even before Brightland was anything, we always led with how is this going to make people feel? What is that emotional resonance that we're creating with any product? So all of our products have names. All of our products have not only names, but they also have, so for example, with this chili oil in this slide, it's called Ardor, and underneath, its sort of title, we said for flair and fervor. So we always have a descriptor too. So we wanted to build as much like emotional resonance with the actual product and then with the world that we create with the photography and everything beyond that, because ultimately, most of our business is direct to consumer, which means we're not on many store shelves. And so we are bringing people into this digital world when they come to our website. And that's the like experience that they see.
I think that's phenomenal. And could you touch on that a little bit more? So obviously the pandemic has thrown barriers up all over the place. And, for food companies, for beverage companies, for just companies in general, and especially startups such as yourself. So how did you overcome that? And, what kind of marketing channels have you been using? And how did you continue to build your brand in spite of the pandemic?
Yes. Brightland is around 2 years old. And when we launched, we did launch with the direct-to-consumer kind of first mentality. And I think we're in a unique category in which we can operate as a digital first brand because we sit at a price point where when we ship to customers, we don't need to ship, 20 packets of a snack that's, $2 or $3 or even $5. We can instead, package a couple of the oils together and it kind of the math works out from a shipping standpoint. And we really wanted to focus on digital first because we have a direct relationship with our customers. We can email with them. I've called the customers before. I've had conversations with them. Our team can talk to them. And there's something really beautiful and special about that because they've then been able to share, here are products that we want to see you come out with. Here's feedback that we have. Here's what we would love to see, in the future. And it's been invaluable for us. But all that to say, we had baked in a pretty solid foundation being, digital first and kind of leaning into direct to consumer, but we layered on top of it a retail strategy. So we're in about 400 retail stores around the country, ranging from like wellness, wine shops, cheese shops, some sort of like smaller grocery, lifestyle luxury stores. And some of those retailers happen to be folks like Nordstrom and Neiman Marcus and Bloomingdale's. And so when the pandemic hit, we saw some pretty large purchase orders sort of disappear on that front. But on the digital side, I think people were really excited to not have to go anywhere and shop from home. And so we absolutely saw like a spike in sales and a pretty massive spike in sales actually. And that sustained itself through this time. And I think we spotted that pretty quickly and decided to really like invest in digital content, educational content, and really leaned into a lot of, on social and on our editorial platform, we've invested quite a bit.
Yeah. So how did you build your brand? I mean, how, if you were to give advice, and you've given so many great pointers already to the audience, but, how would you tell them to get started and build their brand and appeal to people emotionally? Because I know health and wellness was a big part of your inspiration too. So, how can people really get things underway in a big way?
Oh my goodness. Well, I think product is table stakes. I know we didn't talk too much about product today in this. We spoke, mainly about brand and design a bit more, but making sure that you feel 100% about your product is just non-starter. Like, we firmly believe that our products are just outstanding and are better than anything you can find at a store. Once you have that nailed down, when you're thinking about brand, I think I would come back to that first kind of nugget that I shared about finding inspiration from industries outside of yours and not focusing inward. And, I think the more you focus on your own industry, every industry is crowded. It's 2020. There are dozens of cheese companies, hundreds of, snack bar companies, and there seems like a new one every day that pops up. So instead of focusing on what they might be doing, whether they're your peer or a little further ahead, or feeling sort of down because it feels very crowded, really thinking about what are the blank spots and kind of white spaces, even from a brand personality standpoint, where you can make a mark. I think that would be one piece of advice. And then my other piece of advice would be to always have a healthy amount of naivete. It's okay not to know everything, because I certainly came into it with bright eyes. And I think that has propelled us to have a bright future ahead, no pun intended.
Well, I think that's an incredible story, Aishwarya, and thank you for sharing so much about your success. And I know you're an inspiration to so many people, because, I think especially with the pandemic, people have an idea, and maybe this is kind of an opportunity for them in many ways to be able to build their brand and scale up and launch their products. So thank you so much for sharing so much valuable information with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I so enjoyed it. And for anyone listening, if you want to follow us on Instagram, we are Brightland, and our website is brightland.co minus the M. So definitely check us out. And if you have any questions or want to get in touch, you can ping us on Instagram, and I'll check it and I'll respond back to you. But thank you so much, Kathy, for having me and to Grow New York for this.
Thank you. Congratulations and warmest wishes.
Thank you. Take care.
You too.